Hello.
Hello, Dave. Welcome. Nice to see you after some time. I
Hello,
think the
Sam.
last,
Nice to see you too.
I think the last time was in Inter Airport, wasn't it, in Europe? That was
Yes, it
good.
was. And we were like literally ships passing in a corridor, wasn't we? We were sort of waving at each other and making
Busy, busy.
gestures in the air. But yeah, no, Inter Airport was all so many moons ago now, but it's not that far, is it? But it just
No,
seems
no.
with the pace of life, at the moment, the pace of life
Mm.
is so fast and exciting that these little events that go on along the journey that we're all on is they just go into the distance very quickly.
That's right. So as you know, this month is going to be about ramp communications, and
Yeah,
you are like an expert in the field, and I thought it'd be a perfect
thank you.
opportunity to talk to you about what dBD is doing and just to share what news you might have.
Yeah, thank you, and I really appreciate. I mean, Sam, obviously you know the GHI brand as it works really well, and I think you keep the industry informed about what's going on, which I'm a great believer in you guys and what you do in that. I mean, dBD really have been still quite new in the air sector. Most of our core business previous to this, I mean, we've been going for just over 20 years now, 21 years, but most of our business prior to 2014 was either in the defence sector or the construction sector. Um, so, so we took a capability into the ground handling market that we already had from other experience, which is quite exciting. And you know, to break into some new ground and find out what's going on. And I think we were going fantastically until that dreaded pandemic, and the air
Mm.
market was growing progressively. We've done a lot of stuff in Asia and the Middle East, a little bit in Europe, and then it literally went on hold. And I think, but now where we sit at the moment is we closed our books because we have a financial year that ends in September, and we closed our books about 2 points down on what we were pre-COVID, which I think is a great achievement for the team. Of what, you know, we've recovered our position from a couple of years ago, you know, and now we're just a couple of spots off, you know, a couple of percent off of what we turned over back in before the day, which is a really great milestone to hit, really.
Mm.
I think, you know, COVID definitely affected our turnover, and the air market effectively for us went on pause. It just completely froze. But now, coming out of COVID, we decided to make a conscious effort to knock on the American market sector door, which has proved absolutely phenomenal in the fact that there's far more need to improve safety in their market than is in the other markets, because I think cost really isn't the bearer here, although I do believe we're one of the most competitive solutions in the marketplace. But I do think that it's having the technology that's ready off the shelf, that gives the performance that they need, as actually we've sort of hit home into the American market at the moment, which is really good. But that to say, we've still got activity in the Middle East and the Far East as well. So it's not, but they've been a little bit slower to come to
Mm.
market after the pandemic. So
Mm.
yeah, that's sort of 2023 has been fairly good in that respect, because we've started to see that growth in the air
Mm.
sector again to bring us back to pre-COVID levels, which is really good.
Yeah, and so you would say that the uptake of your wireless sets is still has soared in a way. It's even more popular than it was. Remember you in the Americas talking about the risk elements with corded sets, and part of that is the reason why a lot of airports are buying these wireless sets because of the
Well,
safety
yeah,
aspect.
definitely. And I think one thing you'll see in the American markets, which you don't see as much around the rest of the world, is the integration of wing walkers on a lot of activity. So, and I think there's a number of reasons behind that, and the rationale is that they have less space, believe it or not, although we're America we're talking about, but they have less space on their aprons and their airfields with far more traffic. So, so the need to put these wing walkers and deploy these wing walkers for the additional safety element of both for both danger of risk of injury and risk of damage to equipment is obviously more paramount in those environments. Now,
Mm,
prior to us talking to the American market, they were dabbling with some systems that weren't actually meeting the need to incorporate the wing walker community in a communication type loop.
mm,
And they were relying on hand signals and buzzers and waving
mm,
wands and that sort of stuff, which is difficult. The poor tractor driver who's got to push back the aircraft has got to have almost four eyes, because he's got to look at two wing walkers, a tail walker, and the cockpit, and have another scenario generation of what's going on all around them.
mm,
Whereas once you put a communication link into that team, then you eliminate a lot of that threat of where the people are standing and what they're doing. And I think that's what we've been able to do. I know there are other people out there that have got similar solutions, but I think because of the durability of our wireless waveform, that it doesn't drop out, and you can get far more range, I believe,
mm,
than what's currently available. Then you get that flexibility of that team to be able to maneuver in other areas where they couldn't go before, and still remain in communication with the main person controlling the activity, which has been that's a real big safety change. And that's what
mm,
Donato actually they challenged me when I was in Miami a couple of years ago to try and improve that situation, which is what we've been very successful with Donato. We've deployed into JFK and 5 other US airfields with our systems where it's been used and used effectively to improve that communication link with their walkers. And I believe now that we are the product of choice for Donato in America to utilize our wireless systems around their aircraft, which is quite exciting, because I think Donato are growing, and obviously Donato is not just based in America, but at the moment, we'll concentrate our efforts on supporting them, and hopefully then take it to the more wider
mm,
community of Donato in themselves. The key thing with our system is that you've got the ability to communicate with all your wing walkers, and even around large platforms like the 380, the Dreamliner, etc., where the wide bodies aircraft, it's sometimes a challenge for wireless to get to all parts where you need to be, because you're
mm,
beyond the wings, you're at the tail, and still remaining in contact all together.
mm,
For a wireless system to work effectively, you have to have a robust communication link without dropouts. And that's what we've been able to prove. And that's why we were challenged, and we took the challenge, and we were very successful. And it was after a GHI conference. So there's some credit to GHI
fabulous.
for that one, where, Donata challenged us, we succeeded. And now we're in a very nice relationship with a very major
Mm,
player in the US. So that was quite key, really. And
mm,
the one thing I do want to mention there, though, is that the whole of the American market was something that we decided to target on the downside of coming out of COVID, um, which was when Prime Flight, another very well established ground handler in the US and other areas, we were working with them already, and they got supplied some headsets for their de-icing activity via Vestergaard, because Vestergaard use our equipment on their de-icing equipment. It generally comes as default when you're using an open bucket de-icer system, and it comes with, if their client asks for wireless headsets, it's ours.
mm,
So we provide that into Vestergaard. But then the supportability and the sustainability of that going forward, we tend to pick that up, obviously, because Vestergaard are all about de-icing machines. They're not about headsets. So
mm,
we were working with Prime's Flight because they had access to our headsets from Vestergaard, and that's why we came into the States. And now we're working with Prime Flight on pushback as well. So it's gone from,
mm,
it's a growth. We're in most of their de-icing stations now. We're working working with them to improve those particular aprons. Sometimes they only need 2 users, but there are times when you need to put like a pad de-icing system together where you've got multiple trucks talking to each other.
Mm.
We've been able to provide them kit and which they're looking at, and it's quite exciting times. Prime Flight have been, and the partnership with the two companies I've already mentioned, like with Donata and Prime Flight, is a true partnership. It's like, it's really nice that we're working together, and you get not completely open book because we've all got our crown jewels we need to protect in some areas, but there is a situation where you feel like you're part of the one team, and
Yeah.
it's something that I've always found is that in any form of business sales relationship, if you can get that, it's a bit like with you and me, Sam. You know, you're quite engaged. You understand what dBD do, and now we can be very open and discuss, you know, the things that are happening. As I said, I'm not going to show you my crown jewels, but I'll show you everything else, if you know what I mean. And I think that's the
Yeah.
relationship that we've got with the American companies that we've already set up partnerships and agreements with. They're not, and you know, there are others. I mean, a couple of others I want to mention, if I may, if that's
Yeah,
okay
because
by
I was
you.
going to ask you about the footprint from America. Are you
Yeah.
looking to the Far East, for example?
Well, the Far East is still a good position for us. I mean, we done quite well in Thailand with Bangkok Flight Services, and we provide them all their wireless headsets, and they were one of our early customers in the very early days of when they were embracing pre-COVID. They embraced the wireless technology, and there's still a number of companies that haven't gone wireless, and it's predominantly where budget bears an issue. And I think on the initial face of it, you know, you're looking a wireless headset, just a single wireless headset to talking to an aircraft, is approximately 3 times the price of a wired headset.
Right.
And depending on who you're buying them from, but that's roughly. Sometimes it's twice, sometimes it's 3 times. Depends on where you're getting your equipment from. So that's a quantum change from a financier's book, because they're saying, well, why should I buy 3 times the price for a headset when actually I can do the job with a wired headset? Well, you can, but what that isn't taken into any consideration is supportability, because with wired headsets, you generally have quite a high usage on the trailing cable and the trailing leads. And for that effect, they're pulled, twisted, crushed, split, etc., where you have to keep repairing them. But really, the most important thing is the safety element here, in the fact that, you know, how much really in the whole scheme of things does the headset cost equate to increasing the safety element of that? And you're removing, when you go wireless and you go wireless with range, because there are a couple of systems out there that can only do 10, 20 meters, and I'm not talking those type, but the wireless systems that can remote you away from the safety zones, still maintaining all the IATA regulations and making sure you've got eye contact and all the rest of it. But then you can come out of the safety zone and you've got far more ability with situation awareness to look around the aircraft, you know, what the actual, you know, the different angles that you can get with the tug driver and the, you know, the aircraft in itself. And you can get a better all-round vision, and also take that person away from the safety risks and concerns of crash with you know, being too close to the wheels, being, you know, too close to the intake, the jet engine, etc., etc. You can move people away from that, and that, you know, so the safety is the critical thing here, not really the cost. And, you know, in an industry that's generally looking at safety as a big reason to, you know, and a big concern, it worries me sometimes when people are still using wired headsets, because they're not really taking safety into consideration. Yeah, so the Far East is picking back up again. We've certainly continuing to support Bangkok Flight Services. We've sold in the past to Singapore Airlines, and there's areas in New Zealand and Australia that we're working with as well. And there's a little bit of activity in Malaysia as well. So the Far East is is moving. We're definitely coming to GHI in Kuala Lumpur. So, you know, that will be interesting to see and meet some of the old friends and colleagues that in that region, and see what's happening and see how we can increase safety for them. So the Far East is good, but without a doubt, the American market, you know, I'm coming back to it a little bit here, but the American market is a huge market that we seem to be on the button with price and performance, and also delivery. I have various different clients now telling me that our product performance is very good. In fact, in some cases, game changing with respect to safety because of range and battery life and stuff like that. And then because we're virtually off the shelf, and some suppliers and companies are struggling with meeting their demands, and their lead times are much longer than ours, I think we seem to be hitting the button in America at the moment, which is great. I mean, one of our biggest coups recently is American Airlines. I mean, American Airlines, we've now signed us up, and we're an approved vendor, which is quite exciting. That's been, I know I'm shout out for GHI again, but we met American Airlines in Amsterdam last year, and and then we followed up, and we ended up getting audited by American. They came to UK and audited the company, and then there's been a whole ream of trials and tests at various locations in America, where we've been up there, been utilising the product and making sure it is what it says on the tin, and it's you know it's had a glowing success really, hence why we're now vendor approved on American Airlines. So where that takes us, we're still trying to work out. 2024 it could be quite exciting, and I'm sure American are not the only airline that we can support in America, you know, so it's quite exciting. Airlines certainly seem to be the volume in one lump, but of course the other ground handlers and the de-icing companies, I just want to put a mention out to IDS, because IDS we helped last year in Salt Lake City, because they had some issues with a pad de-icing system and they wanted some improvements on how they were working. So we successfully supplied them some systems which have worked very, very well during the winter months. And I think Salt Lake City is quite arduous with respect to de-icing, and certainly in midwinter times. But that means now IDS are now deploying more. I mean, I think it's Colorado, certainly Seattle, and a number of other sites. IDS now are deploying our systems into various other locations. So another company that we're working with in America is WFS. Now, obviously, there's a linkage with them with the Bangkok organization, but Bangkok Flight Services, and of course, they've all been swept up in this big umbrella of SATS now, because they're now owned by SATS, who we're also doing business with in the Far East. So realistically now, because of our references for Bangkok Flight Services, WFS went ahead and bought some systems and are utilizing them in Newark. So it's in New York as well, but a different airfield. So WFS, obviously, working well with them is a real nice feeling, in the fact that they're comfortable with our equipment. Nothing's gone wrong for 2-3 years, which is they're quite excited about, the fact that it's reliable. And again, another American organization, I think there's potential for growth to go to other parts of where they're doing business and try and improve their safety cases and all the rest of it. So, I mean, there's a bit going on in the Middle East as well. I can share with you that we supply Qatar with our headset checkers, Qatar Airlines, and there's some. I'm encouraged by what they're talking about with potential wireless systems. So we might have some news there in the near future, but nothing yet. But they are very interested in, the Middle East is starting to wake up to the recognition of wireless headsets.
So if you could, like, as a final kind of lasting thoughts for people on the edge of thinking, do they not buy wireless, what would you say to them?
Depends how much you invest in your safety case. It really is. You know, it's all about safety. You shouldn't be looking at the price. You should be looking at the safety and what the additional. It mitigates a lot of the safety risks that are around the aircraft. Whether you're incorporating the wing walkers or not incorporating the wing walkers, and you're just talking about the dispatcher, you know, the increased safety levels that it gives you for your staff, it is what you should be concentrating on. But if you're comfortable with running with the current safety risks, then, you know, stay with what you've got. But, you know, but if you then transpose that to money, which as most of us tend to do, I think you'll find that a wireless headset will have paid for itself within a year of its purchase, over and above the repairs you'll have to do to a wired one.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Okay, well, thanks, Dave, for your time.
You're welcome.
It's really nice to see you. I look forward to seeing you soon in Lisbon.
Yes, we'll be there. I'm sure we'll be meeting all of our friends and colleagues like we do. We're still in the club, which is a lovely club to be in. I quite enjoy it. But yeah, no, and you too, Sam. Thank you, Sam, for being so pleasant as always. And yeah, lovely to see you and look forward to catch up.
Great.